Hey everyone, it's Justin here at This Just In. I'm here to bring you another pair of horror book reviews. This time they're a short couple of books, so maybe this will be a short couple of reviews. Each of these books I received by way of Juan over at Plagued by Visions. You saw me unbox recently, I believe, The Rue. He reviewed this during his Creature Feature month. And this is, I think, his first book he read during that series of books. He did not review it so positively. We'll see how I take it. And then we've got Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. This is also Juan's copy of this book, but he sent it on to Dave and Olive over at Book Blather, and then I won the draw on that, and Dave sent it over to me for me to read and review and hopefully begin a discussion, lengthier discussion on this book. So let's get started. Let's hop right into it with my review of The Rue. All right, so The Rue by Alan Baxter started as a bit of a joke on Twitter. I guess Alan Baxter and some of his horror author friends, they laughed over an article, the headline of an article, Australian town terrorized by muscular kangaroo attacking people in eating gardens, which is pretty funny. And then Keelan Patrick Burke, I believe, another horror author whom I know the name of, but not familiar with his work. He drew a cover, and they had joked that this would be it sounds like a book that would have been published by Zebra Books. So he drew up a cover, and they thought that was pretty funny. So they said, hey, we should actually put an actual book under that cover of the book. So Alan Baxter, since it's about a killer kangaroo and Alan Baxter's Australian, they decided to toss him the yoke of writing this book, and here it is, The Rue. And I read it, and I feel very much the same as Juan felt about this book. The cover is the best part. Between the pages, there's not a lot going on here. Let's see, let's talk about the plot, I guess, for what there is of it. There's not much to describe. You've got a small town in Australia in the middle of nowhere. Morgan's Creek is the name of the town. And one day, a giant, demonic, muscular kangaroo begins killing people. And that's about it. So unfortunately, this book is a lot more boring than it sounds. You might think that a book where a giant kangaroo rips people's heads off and splits them in half and tears their arms apart might be very entertaining and funny or exciting, but no, it's none of those things. The writing is very dull. It feels like a first draft. It was just tossed off, and I should have gone back to it and punched it up a bit. And like Juan pointed out, there's an attempt at a larger message related to domestic violence, which really isn't well integrated in the book and doesn't fit at all. It feels like an after-school special with the way it's presented and how it's written, and it kind of plays into the plot, but it just seems silly, and the whole thing is silly, but not silly enough to be entertaining even. And the attempt at a message regarding domestic violence just makes the whole thing even more uncomfortable. But people seem to love this book. I checked a lot of reviews online after I read it, as I'll often do when I finish a book, and people seem to love it, and how violent it was and fun it was, and they were touched by the message. And I was like, wow, really? Did you read the same book? Is there another copy of The Rue that was updated and revised? And is there a director's cut of this? I'm not sure. If there were, I don't think I would bother with it. So yeah, The Rue I can't get behind. I'm sure Alan Baxter has written much better things, and I might give one of them a try just to see what he can do. I can't imagine this is his best work, in spite of what a lot of people seem to think. For me, the characters had no character. The dialogue was flat and uninteresting. The action and violence was unexciting, and the message it lacked any depth and felt out of place. So I'm sorry, Alan Baxter. I'm sure you've written much better, and this was just a rough draft that you had to get out right away or something. I don't know. I even the cover, I think the humor and cheesiness of the cover has kind of lost all of that, and it's just there for me now. So there you go. There's the Rue. Now let's move on to something that's quite a bit darker, but is it any better? We'll see. I'm going to drink to continue this one. Oof. All right, and so part 2 in books that I can't blame Juan, Plagued by Visions, on because I asked for them. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. This has been a pretty controversial, very popular, a lot talked about book of late. So you've probably seen Juan's review of this, and I don't know that I'll have much more to add to this than he has to say about it, but I'll try. I read it, so I have to report back to you about it, don't I? So Things Have Gotten Worse is a story of two lesbian women who meet on a queers list. Is it queer list or queerslist.org in the year 2000. In 2000, of course, the internet was in a very kind of infant state. Well, I don't know about infant, but it was maybe toddler state. High-speed internet was just kind of at the cusp of being used in residential and in most people's homes. There was no social media. MySpace was still a couple of years off. So there's no real place to build an online personality, an online presence. And there are online communities, there were some social communities, but nothing like you have now where you have your own personal profile with your pictures of you and your family or the things that you're doing. It's all, you're talking to people more than you are presenting yourself. There were of course online communities. You had Usenet, you had AOL. This was before AOL's disastrous merger with Time Warner. But anyway, web pages. There were no fancy graphics or whole lot of pictures and images on web pages. So there was not much you could do but read text, read emails, read forum posts, and chat through Instant Messenger. And that's how this story is told. It's all told in epistolary format, if you will, from the year 2000 through online forums, or not forums, but an online post or email exchange or internet or instant message exchanges. So we have Agnes. Agnes and Zoe are our two main characters. They're on the site queerlist.org, and Agnes has posted an ad or a listing for an antique apple peeler. This antique apple peeler is a bit of an heirloom for her in her family. It's been handed down through generations through the women in her family, her great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, and so on. So she tells the story of the antique apple peeler, the apple peeler's origin story, if you will, and how her great-grandmother very much wanted this apple peeler, but her husband was not interested, and so to persuade her husband, she gave him an apple in his lunch, put an apple in his lunch, but she put a needle in the apple, and when he bit the apple, the needle injured him, and somehow this convinced him that, okay, she should have the apple peeler. So Zoe responds to the ad, because Agnes has also told a story about how Charles Ives, a composer from the 20th century, may have used the apple peeler. She can't really prove it, but it's kind of a story in her family that Charles Ives used this apple peeler. And Zoe tells Agnes that her grandfather loves Charles Ives, and in fact she has a fond memory of sitting with him and listening to Charles Ives, which I thought a little strange, because I thought of Charles Ives as an experimental composer, not somebody you would sit with your grandfather and say, "Oh, isn't this lovely?" But maybe I'm wrong. I did listen to some Charles Ives compositions after reading this, and a lot of it's experimental, but there are some things that I guess are a little more standard. So, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just an excuse for the two to connect over this apple peeler. So they agree on the sale, and so Zoe asks of Agnes, why are you getting rid of this apple peeler that seems to mean so much to you and your family? And Agnes admits that she's hit some hard times and has had to take a cut in pay at her job and is having trouble making rent. And so Zoe says, oh, well, I just happen to be in a position where I can help you. You keep the apple peeler and give me your account information, and I'll wire you some money. And she does. And Agnes is very grateful, and they have some more exchanges, and they start to flirt a little bit, maybe. And eventually Zoe asks or tells Agnes that, hey, I can take care of you financially, and we can start this relationship, but you need to enter into this contract with me where I'll take care of you on the condition that you'll do anything that I tell you to. And Agnes, so yes, that sounds great to me. I'll sign away, and so she does, and not literally sign. She types out something that is like, I signed this. Anyway, so, and of course, you can probably guess that Zoe isn't just going to ask of Agnes, to pick flowers or bake an apple pie, but asks her to do things that grow increasingly twisted and may or may not end up driving Agnes to the brink of insanity. I may have said too much already, but you can kind of see where it's going, and I really didn't know what to make of this book. There's a lot of religious symbolism, a lot of religious imagery, and I don't know what it added up to. There's of course, the apple imagery, and what I described before was kind of this Adam and Eve kind of symbolism going on there, and then there's something else that I won't describe, but that it would be a little bit of a spoiler, and also is very tries to be shocking, I guess I'll say, but it felt removed from it when I read it, and then the ending is absurd and silly and ridiculous, and I just ended it with like, well, what was that about? I don't know what LaRocca's getting at here. I don't know if he's saying something about the state of the internet in the year 2000, or if he's saying something about how people communicate or connect on the internet in general. And also, I don't know that LaRocca really looked into what an antique apple peeler is like. When you think of a peeler, I know you think of the handheld utensil that you use on a potato or use on a vegetable, zucchini, whatever. But an antique apple peeler, when I looked them up, they're contraptions. They're not just a handheld thing. They're contraptions that you with a crank, and a little bit more complex than you might think when you just read apple peeler. I don't know that LaRocca got that. There's a couple of details regarding the apple peeler that make me think he didn't. But on the other hand, the big deal kind of made about it, in the apple peeler's origin story, makes me think, well, maybe he does. I don't know. I'm starting to overthink the wrong parts of this book. Maybe I don't know if there's any place in this book where I should, or what I should be thinking about any aspect of this book. I know Dave enjoyed it, and I'm very interested in seeing what he has to say about it now that I've read it. I like his idea of beginning kind of a broader conversation with it and getting this book around to more people so more people can talk about it. And I'd love to do that, just so if somebody can give me some insight into this book and what the heck it's about, that would be great. So yeah, things have gotten worse since we last spoke. I don't know. So here we have a pair of books that, one which just took itself way too seriously. Maybe it shouldn't have. And then one which I thought wasn't going to take itself too seriously, and then it did, and it shouldn't have. So I don't know. Hopefully my next read is I get a lot more out of my next read than I got out of these two books. I think with this one, I've already talked to Michael K. Vaughan. The next time I see him, I'm going to hand this off to him, and he'll read it, and we'll try and see if we can keep this thing passed on. So I'll pass this on to Mike. We'll get his thoughts on it. He'll pass on to somebody else. It'll be this cursed book that we ship around to each other, and then you have to do a booktube review on it within 10 days, 7 days of reading it. Otherwise, you get an antique apple peeler sent to you. All right. Well, that's all I've got review-wise. The other things I've got going on is I'm in the tail end of Jane Austen July, and so I've started reading Pride and Prejudice, far different book from the two that I just reviewed. So maybe I'll put a review out about that. And also I'm doing a buddy read with Sandy over at Ms. Reads a Lot. We are reading The Midwich Cuckoos, which is another book that Juan at Plagued by Visions reviewed. Hope not just becoming a copy of Plagued by Visions. Oh well. Well, I don't think he would read Pride and Prejudice anytime soon, so maybe not. Anyway, I'm looking forward to reading this along with Sandy. If it's as good as the cover I've got here, it'll be a fantastic book. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hope to see you next time. I should have another couple of tag videos coming out soon. I've been tagged 3 times, I think, so I better get on top of those. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.